Well, hello there, and welcome back to the podcast that must not be named. I am Melissa.
I am Luke.
And we are here discussing Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, chapter number 33, The Death Eaters. This chapter was 15 pages long, which is 2.04% of that book.
Harry watches as Voldemort examines his new body before touching a red tattooed dark mark on Wormtail's good arm. He muses to Harry as he paces around the graveyard about killing his Muggle father who left his witch of a mother before he was born, being left at a Muggle orphanage when his mother had died. As he speaks, wizards begin apparating in a circle around him, each hooded and masked. The Dark Lord welcomes his Death Eaters and states that they seem guilty of betrayal and not coming to find him and assist him. One Death Eater throws himself at Voldemort's feet, begging for forgiveness. Voldemort punishes him with the Cruciatus Curse, telling him he does not forgive, and he does not forget. He then rewards Wormtail's sacrifice with the magical hand. Voldemort circles the group, addressing several of the Death Eaters individually, one being Lucius Malfoy. He notes that his true supporters will be released from Azkaban as the Dementors are true allies, and others who have led to his service will pay for their betrayal. And finally, one who is currently at Hogwarts who made it possible for Harry to be with them tonight. Voldemort discloses his history, telling them when he failed to kill Harry, one of his many attempts at immortality had worked and he was ripped from his body. He fled the area, finding a hiding spot in a forest far away where he used the bodies of snakes and small animals to survive. He was found by a young wizard 4 years ago and tried to use him to steal the Sorcerer's Stone, but was thwarted by none other than Harry. Leaving Quirrell's body to die without him, he fled again and was found a year ago by Wormtail, who had just been given information from Bertha Jorkins about a faithful Death Eater who would help him. He killed Bertha, and with Wormtail's help found the faithful servant who delivered Harry to him. He uses Harry's blood because it was special, and now he can be touched. Voldemort tortures Harry with the Cruciatus Curse, then he orders Wormtail to untie him and return his wand.
So, Lucifer, I think we meet some people.
First meetings. I think we had heard of several of these characters. A lot of them we'd actually met before, even like a surprising number I thought we had met before. But some new introductions that we had were Avery, no first name, just Avery. We met Mr. Crab and Mr. Goyle.
As opposed to their offspring.
Right. And another Death Eater named Not. And I think everyone else we had heard of and or met before at some point.
I really left that up to you. I look like there just kept being name after name. I'm like, I don't know. I don't remember. Luke will get it. This is kind of what I went with it.
That's fair.
So,
That's fair.
Good job, Luke.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
We didn't go anywhere new, so we have no new locations.
Yeah, we hardly moved. Like, I don't think there was really any movement from
literally,
from
Harry was tied up the whole time.
Yeah.
So he didn't move at all.
Right.
There was some arrivals.
Yeah, but outside of that, yeah.
Some formation moving into circular
synchronized
form.
death eating. That's a t-shirt right there.
Something like that. And then Magicabulary, anything that we hadn't heard?
I didn't see anything new.
No. I think, excuse me, apparently I'm sleepy. I feel like the knowledge that the dark mark was on Wormtail's arm is sort of new. The idea of it being a tattoo,
right,
as opposed to the mark in the sky.
We knew that there had been something going on with the forearms, with like Karkaroff and Snape, but we didn't really know.
This is like confirmation.
We didn't know what that is. So yeah, I would say it's an introduction of something. So I think that's worth pointing out. That's fair.
All right, and then we had an illustration.
Yeah, let's see if I can pull mine up here. It's got a yellow highlight on it, but there you go. You can kind of see it.
All right, there we go. So it's basically a graveyard,
yeah,
with some hooded figures in the background, right?
That's what it looks like. Yeah, hard to really count them, but there's a bunch. That's really about it. I don't know. You got any thoughts on it?
It's a graveyard with some hoods. That's what happened.
Yep. Like, what else are they really going to show, though? Harry tied up, people arriving. Like, that's the action. It's them standing there talking.
Possible. Maybe. we would have gotten like, did Wormtail get his hand now? Like maybe Wormtail getting his new hand.
Yeah, showing the hand or something. That could have been.
Yeah,
Could
but
have been
really,
something.
the arrival of the Death Eaters. It's called the Death Eaters. The Death Eaters are in the picture. Pretty sure that's going to be the main topic of the conversation. So, yeah, the picture should be Death Eaters.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
All right.
I am good with it.
All right, Luke. So I have what feels like a gajillion notes, and you have like 3.
I've got a handful, and some of
4.
I read through what you had, so I was like,
Okay.
I had plenty more thoughts too. So
all right. So are you good if I just like
Go
start
for it.
because mine kind of
Just-
go chronologically, and
just
then you
go
can
for it.
just throw yours as needed.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm going to start with a quote. Here we go. "My lord," he choked. "My lord, you promised. You did promise." "Hold out your arm," said Voldemort lazily. "Oh, master, thank you, master." He extended the bleeding stump, but Voldemort laughed again. "The other arm, Wormtail." This quote is how you know you are in the presence of true evil, because he don't care about anyone.
Mm-hmm.
This dude just chopped off his hand for you, and he's bleeding, and you're like, no, I'm not going to do anything about that. I want, my pager system.
Right.
I need that.
I need the magical beeper.
It was bad. So Voldemort, you don't mess with him.
That's pretty cold. That's definitely pretty cold.
Oh, so bad. Okay. So Voldemort, when talking to Harry, I like this chapter. I'm not a huge fan of like Voldemort. I'm not saying he's like my pal or anything, but
Voldy, he's our guy.
if he can do it, great. But when he starts monologuing about his dad, it just was The Incredibles all over again.
Yeah.
I mean, it just cracks me up, right? You got me monologuing. That's what he's doing here, except Harry's not saying a word. He's just like...
this is absolutely a Voldemort, a Tom Riddle trait. I mean, every time we've ever seen him, has spilled all the beans. That's just what it is. He doesn't have too many people to talk to, and he has to let Harry know how cool this is. Like, no, I did a cool thing. You need to know about it because I can't talk to anybody else about it.
Okay, number 1, it's cool.
It's
number
cool.
2, you need to know it's cool. Number 3, I haven't spoken to anyone in 13 years except Quirrell, Bertha, and Wormtail.
And snakes.
For 13 years.
Yeah. He's got a lot to get off his chest, right?
And I think in this chapter he does. That's the theme of the chapter, right?
Yep.
Voldemort does the talking.
Speaks.
Yes. So then he calls and all the Death Eaters come back, right?
Yep.
Do you notice that he calls them his family?
I did notice that.
Which was almost sentimental, except I don't know about you. But when I see you...
You do know about me.
When I see you after we haven't actually been in the same room for a while, or I go to mom's house, or even go to see, I don't know, grandma or somebody, my initial reaction is not to fall on my knees and kiss anybody's hand.
Or force them to do the like.
Right. Pretty sure that's not how I greet my family. Not just me.
Yeah, no, I tried that for like a week. Oh, for like 30. It just didn't work. Lost a lot of friends.
That's why we're still together, because we're not friends, we're family.
Yeah, thank God.
So I don't know, like that's maybe how you greet the queen, right? But that's not a family thing. I feel like he has maybe a skewed view of what family does. Like they should all be bringing casseroles. Somebody should have desserts for the dessert table, not knocking on their kissing fingers and kneeling beforehand.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a power play, right? I mean, his overall sense of family, we don't know a whole lot about it, other than he doesn't really know what family is, like from what we've seen. So,
and by family he means followers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, of course, don't tell him that. Right. I'm sure he has a monologue prepared.
Oh yeah, he's got that on standby.
Can we talk about the super secret Death Eater tattoo?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So there's a super secret Death Eater tattoo, which apparently came back. It was gone.
It's been growing, like darkening all year,
sure.
right?
So initially, when I was reading this chapter this time around, I was going to ask, where do you get a bunch of super secret Death Eater tattoos done? Like, where is the super secret tattoo artist who's just gonna like quietly take his cash and not report this? And then I realized that, like, oh, it probably was just magic.
I do really, really enjoy the idea of even in your note here, it says that in Nocturne Alley, like a really seedy place, having this cash only, no records tattoo parlor, and just this guy who's just doing his job. And I love that image so much. You gotta figure out what it should be named.
Picture him, right? Like there's in headcanon, there is a Nocturne Alley tattoo artist back there just trying to eke out a living.
Oh yeah, no, I think that is a fanfic that I'd like to request. I want to learn more about the Nocturne Alley tattoo parlor scene.
The life of the Nocturne Alley tattooist.
Yeah. And obviously, you have to come up with something that justifies why they're not just using magic, or maybe part of it imbues magic into it. Like, but you still have to use ink. Like, it's still got to get inked,
right? I mean, and here's the thing: I have been complaining for chapters and chapters of like, just use magic. Just use the magic. Oh no, I don't know what to do. That's magic.
You literally have magic. Like, that's your thing. Right. Use it.
Right. I feel like that has been the complaint I have had this entire book. Now, when I have something blatantly staring at me saying, it's magic, I'm like, oh.
Well, that's...
I was like not impressed.
That's simpler.
I don't know.
Fine.
Whatever. If you're going to use magic that... Now here I am judging the times they use magic.
Man, you're awful.
I am. It's been a long weekend.
Give them a break. They're doing their best they can with the magic that they have.
I mean, we just brought a guy back from the dead. We're not doing too bad here.
We can follow it up with tattoos.
I was writing an essay. Doesn't it seem like that should be the big finale? Not like just me. Okay. So then we had like a Death Eater on the ground writhing and shrieking, right? Because Voldemort was mad and lashed out irrationally and did whatever to him. I don't know, something.
I stopped paying attention.
Yeah, but whatever. Yeah. Some dude did something he didn't like, and so that's what you do to family. You torture them.
Yeah.
Sounds like a little bit of torture. It's great.
Who's up for some torture?
Man, if I could torture my family, meaning my brothers and sister, not so much my kids, but my brothers when they drive me crazy, that'd be great. I have a brother-in-law I'd like to put on that list first. Anyway, off the subject. So Harry is sitting there thinking, right? We get a little bit of internal monologue from Harry, and he says, let the police come, he thought desperately. Anyone, anything. This is an excellent question that Harry asks. How does no one from the surrounding area hear any of this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, well, if we remember back to the Riddle House chapter, the very first chapter of this book, all of the township that we really were hanging out in was Little Hangleton, and this is Great Hangleton, and it sounded like that was, I don't know, maybe the richer area, or maybe just it's still pretty secluded. I'm guessing we're up near the original Riddle House, closer there, where it might just be a pretty secluded area. And
I mean, okay, so Voldemort literally says, here's the paragraph. You see that house up the hillside, up upon the hillside, Potter. My father lived there.
Yeah.
My mother, a witch who lived here in this village, fell in love with him. That leads me to believe they're in a village. And I get it. It's a graveyard. I mean, they're fairly big. There might be some space, but I just think Harry is asking the right questions. There could possibly be someone who hears things. I mean, granted, it's going to be a muggle and then they're just going to die and that's going to be a problem. But he's at least like thinking outside the box of getting help, whatever he can do.
Yeah, reasonable. I mean, literally anything would help him right now. Literally anything.
I don't know. Okay. Then we talk about forgiveness. I really like this line, right? The line about the Death Eater. I don't know which one it was. Some Death Eater's like, oh, please forgive me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Voldemort says, you ask for forgiveness. I do not forgive. I do not forget. I want 13 years repayment before I forgive you. I have been a Catholic my entire life, and I have done penance and I've done reconciliation, and I have never had a priest give me 13 years worth of penance to do. That's pretty intense.
Yeah. Yeah, that takes
Like,
some real commitment, right?
it is. That's severe. That's somebody who's holding a little bit of a grudge.
Pretty reasonable, though. I mean, he lived 13 years. Like, hey, someone's going to try to find me, right?
I mean, he was basically a Force ghost.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, I probably hold the same grudge, but isn't there something? Can I pay you off? Is there like my concession stand duty? Can I just write you the check for $100 and get out of doing what's the extra thing I can give you? How do I speed this up a little bit?
Got to put their time in.
I suppose. All right. I think I like the silver hand.
Yeah.
The silver hand was pretty cool. That's kind of like my favorite part of the chapter. Not necessarily my favorite line, but my favorite thing in the chapter is he does make a silver hand. That's a pretty cool use of magic.
That was a pretty good use of magic. And Wormtail, again, it feels weird, like, giving them all kudos, but, like, he did a good job. Like, for what he cares about, he did a good job and finally got rewarded for all of the effort, regardless of why he did it. He still did it. And Voldemort sees that and rewards him. And good on him. Nice job, Tom. Because I call him Tom.
Oh, okay. You're on a first name basis now?
Yeah, after this chapter, yeah.
Okay. Well, he did talk a lot. We do know a lot about him now.
I feel like we really know him now.
Did you feel like we were at a reunion?
Yes.
Like there should have been an open bar,
yeah.
And maybe like the old class president who was like handshaking people as they walked in. It was really like, oh, it's good to see you. And oh, we were not really friends, but like we tolerated each other. And,
we had that class together.
Right. Oh, where's so-and-so? Dead. Where's that so-and-so? Dead. Where's that so-and-so? Prison. Exactly. Like, this kind of felt class reunion-y to me.
It very much did. And yeah, we'll have plenty of thoughts on the Death Eaters themselves, but it definitely felt like a weird, twisted reunion. But yes.
It's like a reunion of people who've lived through like a disaster together, only they were the cause of the disaster.
Right.
It was they're the hijackers or something. And then my last really thought is like, God, we're back to Voldemort monologuing. He's just the backstory goes on forever. I just started flipping. I'm like, oh yeah, I've read that. Yeah. Because I took my notes on this chapter a couple weeks ago, probably even before I went on vacation. So it's been like 2 or 3 weeks.
Uh-huh.
And so I was flipping through it today. I'm like, monologue, backstory. Okay. He must really love having an audience. I'm back to like, he just missed people.
Yeah. I mean, again, he's been cooped up, right? And even since he's gotten whatever this small human version of a body thing is, he's still been cooped up. Like,
with nobody but Wormtail. I'm sorry. That would drive me crazy.
Like, just let the guy live a little. Like, he's got a lot of things on his mind.
He needs a girls' night out.
He does. Yeah.
Some drinks.
Let's get some mimosas. Yeah. That seems like a Voldemort drink, doesn't it? Mimosa.
Yes, it does. It sure does.
Yeah.
That's funny. Definitely not a Bloody Mary.
No, I don't think so. No. Maybe a gin and tonic. Maybe a gin and tonic kind of guy. I don't know.
That's if it's like a serious night.
Yeah, if he's out doing real business, yeah.
Yes.
But for Voldemort ladies' night, right?
Which he doesn't because he's Voldemort.
Yeah,
and
maybe back in the day.
Enough.
Maybe back in the day.
Okay, good point. All right,
so
Luke, thoughts?
I like that we have confirmation that Lucius Malfoy was in fact one of the Death Eaters at the Quidditch World Cup. I thought that was just a nice little thing that was added in because Voldemort's talking to him and he says, I hear you basically, kind of keep the old ways but present a respectful face, like kind of disappointed you didn't come try to find me. I like, it's cool that you still are down for a little bit of Muggle torture. Your, antics at the Quidditch World Cup were neat, but you also ran when a faithful Death Eater, put the dark mark up in the air. Like, well, hey man, what was that all about? Like, what's the problem here? Like, I like that it's just confirmed that, yeah, Lucius was one of them. And I also like that Voldemort calls him out. Like, why you running, bro? Like, what's up? Like, come on. Like,
come at me.
Right. Yeah. Talk your way out of this one. My slippery friend, I think is what he calls him.
Yes. Good luck with that.
Another thing that I noticed was Mr. Crab and Mr. Goyle have spoken the first time we've seen them. Their children have never spoken on page at this point. They've grunted and guffawed and murmured and sniggered, but they've never said a word.
No, they have not.
Their dads are on screen for almost no time, and they're already, saying, yes, my lord. Like, it's not much, but it's something.
I was just looking. Is that all they say?
It really is.
One says, yes, master. The other says, we will, master.
Yeah.
And I want to say, since he says, will you not, Crab? And you, Goyle, one assumes that Crab speaks first, yes, master. And then Goyle speaks, we will, master. Therefore, Goyles have spoken more because he had 3 words.
Goyles have spoken more. Crabs have spoken first.
Yes. Goyles have 3 letters extra. That's it.
I like that we, are keeping our Crab and Goyle watch going. So it's important stuff. It's important.
It is, because I've never paid this much attention to any story ever in my whole life. We're 4 years in now, 3 years in now. So, and we're still not even halfway through the series. We're just about. And
41% right now.
She did that on purpose, just for it to like ramp up at the end where they finally talk, or if like she forgets at some point and like they just randomly say something and we're like, why are they talking now? This makes no sense. Like they answer a question in potions or something. Or if they really never do, if it's, kind of like when you watch a series and you get to the end of it and nothing's answered the way you wanted it to be. Something like that. We'll see.
I'll leave that one alone because I think you're talking about something
Lost.
You shouldn't be. Lost. Okay. Yeah.
Lost. That's the first time that happened to me. Anyway.
Another thing that in this full backstory of where Voldemort's been, what he's been up to, he's hanging out with snakes and stuff. And then I like that there's, the allusion back to him meeting and interacting with Quirrell. It's just a nice little throwback of the story being aware of itself, kind of, we know that. And it seems like that would be a pretty easy thing to almost gloss over and like not really talk about Quirrell much, but like she gives just enough, and by she in this case I mean Voldemort actually gives just enough for us to be like, oh yeah, that's Quirrell that he's talking about, and we know that story, and it's, I don't know, just a nice little piece of that pie that seems like it could have been trimmed, but I'm glad that it was done the way it was.
Well, I mean, he's monologuing about his backstory, and we've lived through some of his backstory. So it's nice to see the stuff we've lived through track into his story. Yes,
absolutely. I think my last real note here, and there's a lot more to talk about. Luckily, we've got some questions, 5 burning questions coming up too. But there's a line in here that basically, let me see if I can find it real quick. Here we go. Now see the way that fate favors Lord Voldemort. This might have been the end of Wormtail and my last hope for regeneration. But Wormtail, displaying a presence of mind I never would have expected from him, convinced Bertha Jorkins to accompany him on a nighttime stroll. He overpowered her. He brought her to me. Bertha, what are you doing? Like, how did you get convinced to go on this nighttime stroll? Like, there's a lot of topics we could get into that may be better suited for an Accio-politics episode. Consent, all of that. This is a weird one. Is she just completely out of sorts? Is there other magical means of convincing being involved here? I just have questions of the way it's stated. He convinced her to accompany him on a nighttime stroll. Does that stand out weird to you, or am I just looking into it too much?
I never thought about it that way, but it could be, because the word convinced could be like code for
magically coerced
like magical coercion. Who knows?
Right.
Either way, he had ulterior motives.
Oh yeah.
It was not like a pleasant, hey, let's go walk down by the river and buy an ice cream, and then I will like drop you at your doorstep and wave goodbye like a gentleman. That was not going to happen.
No. No, and she knows that this guy is supposed to be dead. Like, it sounds like that she recognized him.
And didn't Sirius say he knew her from school?
Yes.
Which meant Wormtail knew her from school.
Likely.
So it's not just like, I randomly know of this person.
They were at school at the same time.
Yes. I mean, is she that much of an idiot that she didn't remember he was dead?
Yeah, no, I just feel like we still need more information about Bertha Jorkin's, like, travels. Like, what was going on? Like, what?
I kind of want the story of that night. Like, it could be like a 2-page blurb, right? That's what I want. I don't even want to see her talking to Voldemort. I know what happened there.
Yeah, that's fine.
How did Wormtail, of all people, pull this off?
Yeah. And, like, was something else going on? Like, I'm completely fabricating this. Like, that got her all confused. Like, basically completely unrelated to Wormtail. And this was just, like, an opportune thing that it worked out for him because of other existing circumstances on whatever she had just been through. Like, I don't know. Like, why was she even there? I don't know. I have questions, and I think I'm with you. That'd be a neat little short story, couple pages. Just fill that out a little bit.
Done.
All right. Got anything else?
I don't. You've got a weird list of names, though. Is that for later?
We will get to that later.
Awesome. Okay. Hey, Luke.
Yes.
Do you have any ponderings?
I do. I have 5 burning questions. And first, I want to say, my first question, how excited are you that you can actually hear the transition and intro musics now?
This is like the best thing to happen since getting a microphone at my own house so that I can do this via internet and not via driving to your house 30 minutes every time.
Yeah, I thought so.
I don't love hanging out with you. I do, but it's way easier to walk downstairs.
It is much easier. I agree.
Like, I bought my own stool today. I'm going to buy from shameless plug. I'm going to go online to thepodcastbat.com/support us, and I'm going to go to our TeePublic store. I'm going to buy myself some wall hangings.
There you go.
Now that I have a real space dedicated to podcasting in my house, I can hang things. I'm so excited.
That is awesome. I'm excited for you. It's blank canvas to work with behind you there. It's good.
And it's like a little corner, but that's going away.
Yeah. So question 1.
They can't have this space. It's just mine.
Question number 1. Voldemort will recruit the Dementors and the Giants, is what he's saying. And he says, we're going to basically, anyone else that, wants to be a part of this, we're going to recruit them to be a part of our army. What other creatures do you think are going to join his army?
Flobberworms,
okay.
Blast and Scroots.
That makes sense.
Right. The Centaurs.
Okay.
Maybe. Like, I think he's going to, approach them, but they're a little odd.
Mm-hmm.
Back in book 1, they're a little quirky, so you never know what they're going to do. Maybe them. I would say he would in no way want the merfolk. Merfolk are completely useless. Discuss. Right?
Well, you gotta fight this battle land, sea, and air. So, I mean, at least have the...
in the sea. No one else goes in the water.
That's like my biggest gripe with, Jaws. It's such a great movie. It's so scary. It's a fish. Stay out of the water. Problem solved. No issue. Like, that's just don't go in the water. Like, whatever. Different topic, but I'm pretty much with you.
Yeah, like I don't see merfolk as being, how do I want to say this? If I want my quick wins and I want to get the most bang for my least amount of effort, merfolk are not the people I go for. I don't know if I would go for giants either, because I don't know how many there are. I don't know how quickly they can access places where there are actual, huge amounts of people. Dementors, that's a good idea.
Oh, yeah. No, that
you can get a large amount of people with a small amount of Dementors.
Very potent weapon for sure.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Maybe
some dragons.
Slytherin common room.
Yeah, Slytherin common room. Oh, man. Question number 2. How did Voldemort make the Dark Mark reappear on his followers before he got a body? I don't... This was fourth wall. You wrote this question. I don't understand the question.
Okay.
I need a little context, I guess. You mean as it's been darkening all year?
Yes. So Voldemort says, right? It says, Voldemort bent down and pulled out Wormtail's left arm. He forced the sleeve of Wormtail's robes up past his elbow, and Harry saw something upon the skin there, something like a vivid red tattoo, a skull with a snake protruding from its mouth, the image that had appeared in the sky at the Quidditch World Cup, the dark mark. Voldemort examined it carefully, ignoring Wormtail's uncontrollable weeping. It's back, he said softly. They will all have noticed it. And then he pressed his finger to the tattoo. Okay? That's what it says.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of things. One, if it's an actual tattoo, why is it back? One would assume like it would just be a tattoo, but apparently it come back and they are noticing that it's back. This mark, right?
Yep.
How did he make it come back?
Yeah.
Particularly before he was like a full-grown human with wand capabilities-ish or something. Like
it sounds like, I guess the way I've always viewed it is whenever he got that, we'll call it the transition infant body, whatever that is, whatever he's been living as soon as that happened, I think that's when the marks started reappearing on the Death Eater's arms faintly. And as he got stronger, then it started to get darker and darker red until now he's full power. It's kind of like a meter of his strength over the last year, basically. And whenever he presses it, it burns on everyone's arms and it turned black too. So, but I just look at it as it's only been showing up for this past year because he was not powerful enough to emit however that magic works. It seems like it's based off of his liveliness or magical strength.
So do you think that it's based simply upon the fact that he is alive again-ish, even though he wasn't really dead, but alive again? Or do you think once he regained his creepy baby infant form, he did something, some sort of incantation or spell that had it start reappearing? Like he had enough magic power in this baby form to pull that off?
I almost think it happened innately. I don't think he went through and did anything to have it start showing up. But it could have been. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question.
I will say, in the chat, it has been brought up, is the dark mark a proximity thing now that he's back in England?
But he's been there all year, right?
And that's right. Like, because he was in the Riddle House at the beginning, and before this, he's been abroad, if you will. That's a really good point. So, bonus points to Cardinal Doomsday in the chat for throwing that out there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the many, many reasons we live stream these, because you guys have great ideas. Thank you so much. I like that one.
Question number 3. I counted 15 Death Eaters that are either there or specifically referenced. So, does that seem to be fewer than you would have expected for this group? I can quickly read off the names of who we've got.
Please do.
So there's Wormtail and Avery. Avery was the one that got Crucioed. There's Lucius Malfoy. And then he says the Lestranges. So I'm assuming that's 2, the same 2 that we saw in the Memory and the Pensive. McNair, Crabbe, Goyle, Knott. There's 3, and then this is where he gets into the 6. There's a group of 6 that would be here, and 3 are dead. 1 is too cowardly. 1 believed to have left forever, and 1 is the most faithful and is at Hogwarts. So I count 15. Does that seem fewer alive Death Eaters than you would have expected?
Well, or the total group before.
Right. Yeah, because it sounds like that really just was the whole unit because of the way that the openings were left for the other people.
Okay, I will say you said the Lestranges were 2, but in the Memory that you're talking about, wasn't there 3?
There was there were 2 Lestranges and hold on, because they talk about Dolohov, who had died, and Evan Rosier. Was he the other one in there? Why am I blanking on this? Sorry, I'm actually going to quickly click to the chapter.
So we're in the Pensive.
Crouch stood up, looked upon the floor in front of him. The door in the corner opened yet again. 6 Dementors entered this time, flanking a group of 4 people. Harry saw people in the crowd turn up to look at Mr. Crouch. A few of them whispered to one another. I don't think they're named. And really, even the woman's not named in that chapter, technically. So, whoops.
Okay, here's the thing. I'm looking at the part where it's Karkaroff giving names.
Right, and they say that because like Dolohov was one of those.
Dolohov, who they have. He's not dead. They have him. So okay. Dolohov should be somewhere.
Yeah.
Reappear is dead, so that's one of your dead ones.
Yep,
right?
that was the one that took the chunk out of Moody's nose, I think.
You've got Travers, Mulciber, and Rookwood. So that was 4. And they have Travers and they have Mulciber. So of those 4, they have 3 of them. I think there's at least 3 more.
See, and that's where, like, just in that chat, like you said, in this chapter, chapter 30, I feel like there are more that were kind of referenced than the open spots, because they even specifically leave open spots for those that had died.
Do you feel like maybe Voldemort just didn't mention everybody in the circle?
Potentially. And it could, maybe it continued on and then he got distracted by talking about Harry Potter, which is absolutely possible. I mean,
that's what happens when you're monologuing, you lose your place.
Oh, no, I'm running out of time. I need to tell everyone else about Harry Potter being here. That's definitely possible. But from that count, let's say he does go through the whole circle and basically approaches everybody that's there. That seems too few, doesn't it? I would think you'd have more than that.
I think for as much of a reign of terror as he had unleashed 13 years ago, that seems like a really small group to be able to pull that off.
Right. And the fact that he goes around and specifically names almost all of them, and then you look back at the Karkaroff portion of the Pensieve chapter, and he says no one ever knew who the other ones were. Like, well, Voldemort just outed everybody to each other. Like, you just lost. Like, if that wasn't the case until now, like, you just lost that benefit. Like,
except I don't believe that at all. I think it was just Karkaroff blowing smoke up them so he could get off later.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Fair. All right, let me click back over here. Question number 4. Is the shell of a life Voldemort described having better than death?
So is it better to have lived in that, like, shell of that horrible, wispy ghost force ghost like life for 11, 12 years? Is that better than just having just died, just be dead?
What do you think?
I feel like that's a lot of work for not a lot of payoff for a long, long time to just sit there and do nothing but, get really mad at people. I'd probably say no.
It's worked out. He's back.
At the moment.
Like, yeah, I mean, this is what he wanted, though. Like, this is what he did that for. And
chicken, too afraid.
Yeah.
Just die already, man.
Just die already, old man.
Yeah.
Question number 5. So at the end of that list of Death Eaters, we have 3 kind of unknown and still living Death Eaters. And there's one that's too cowardly to show back up. There's one that Voldemort's believed has left forever. And there's one that is the most faithful and is at Hogwarts. Speaking of, who do you think those 3 could be?
Well, I mean, just based off of like the books and even how I read this the first time, one of them is Karkaroff, right? Like knowing what we know about the Death Eater symbol on the arm, I believe, and even the first time I read this, I believe that's what Karkaroff was showing Snape. And we know based on the Pensieve chapter that both Karkaroff was taken in as a Death Eater and he didn't deny it. And Snape was accused of being a Death Eater, which Dumbledore said he is, but isn't, or he was, but isn't anymore, right? So you assume that those 2 are 2 of those 3.
Right, I agree.
Karkaroff's a wimp, so I assume he's the too cowardly one.
I would agree with that.
This is the question, right? So you have, is Snape the one to have left forever? And if you trust Dumbledore, then you say yes. Or is Snape the most faithful?
And he's the one.
Like Dumbledore.
Right.
That's the question. I don't know who the third one is. Maybe it's Rookwood, the guy who was in the ministry or something all those years ago.
Yeah.
That's going to be my guess.
Yeah, that's fair. We've kind of narrowed it down. Like there are other people that seem like they should have been included. Let's go with Rookwood. I like it.
I mean, unless you have a different idea.
No, I think that's pretty reasonable. I feel like he could have, again, if we're looking at this as a complete list, like he doesn't really mention Rosier. Well, Rosier's dead, right? But Dolohov or like seems like Mulciber, and those 2 are in prison, we believe. And
it's 3 of them: Travers, Dolohov, Mulciber, and then Rookwood. So there's 4 names being missed right now.
That should, you would think, be in prison or in the dead list. But anyway, maybe I'm overanalyzing it. I was just curious. Yeah.
Maybe they were like tier 2 Death Eaters.
Yeah, they're on the outer ring.
They're on the outside. They're looking in. They can see through you. Alrighty, so now, Luke, we're going to get into our chapter superlatives. What was your favorite line?
My favorite line is this. It's from our good buddy Voldemort himself. It says, "I miscalculated, my friends. I admit it. My curse was deflected by the woman's foolish sacrifice, and it rebounded upon me. Ah, pain beyond pain, my friends. Nothing could have prepared me for it. I was ripped from my body. I was less than spirit, less than the meanest ghost. But still alive. I was alive. What I was, even I do not know. I, who have gone further than anybody along the path that leads to immortality, you know my goal, to conquer death." I just think it's, there's a couple cool things in there where he talks about Lily's sacrifice and how basically it ripped his soul from his body. And like, that's pretty cool. The meanest ghost thing always makes me think of, well, that sounds like not Casper. Because he's the friendliest ghost, of course. But and also we get seems to be what Voldemort's true number one goal in his being is to conquer death. Like we've kind of figured that out, that he's been chasing some of these immortality things, the Philosopher's Stone, regaining his body, somehow did other things to, even when he gets hit with a rebounded killing curse, he can also survive in some way. So I just think that's a really neat little short paragraph. And it even goes on to have other cool things beyond that. But I thought that kind of got to the crux of what he's been working to.
Good choice. You? I have two. I don't really have two. I have a runner-up. The first one is just, and I know we're not allowed to talk about the movies, and typically we hate the movies, but I could only read this in Ralph Fiennes' voice because it's so perfectly well delivered. And it is a disappointment to me. I confess myself disappointed.
Disappointed.
And it is so like a parent or a teacher who is using reverse psychology of like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. And you're like, oh.
Yep.
Excellent job. That was just a really good like leader move if you want to manipulate your followers, which he is. So, good job.
That's leadership, right?
It's a kind.
Yeah.
This kind of leadership is not endorsed by this show. But my real favorite line, I actually am going to read a lot of it and not just my favorite line, but yeah, it's worth it. His mother died in the attempt to save him and unwittingly provided him with a protection I admit I had not foreseen. I could not touch the boy. Voldemort raised one of his long white fingers and put it very close to Harry's cheek. His mother left upon him the traces of her sacrifice. This old magic, I should have remembered it. I was foolish to overlook it, but no matter. I can touch him now.
Dun, 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 dun.
It's like chills and that's it right there. Because up until that moment, and don't get me wrong, there's been amazing things up until this point. Voldemort's back, Wormtail's back, Wormtail's got a hand, there are bad guys, blah, blah, blah. But that line, I can touch him now, that's when I was like, oh, Harry's done. Because up until now, no matter what else happened, we knew Harry was safe from Voldemort, no matter what else, because Voldemort physically couldn't get him, couldn't touch him, and now he can. And I was like, that's it, that's game. Harry's done. He's got to be done. It is all doom and gloom at this point, because what you going to do?
I mean, it's not like he has to touch him to curse him to death anyway.
No, but like it was just that last, like the last line of defense.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely one of his bigger lines of defense that are completely breached. I agree. It's a bit of a game changer, you know.
Yes.
And it's a very tactical response. And yeah, no, and I like that when he touches him, he feels like his scar is like burning just then too. Like I like that mm-hmm. is connected as well. So that's a neat thing for sure.
All right. So Luke, who was your chapter MVP?
These chapters have been tough lately. I have a question mark after my answer because I don't even know if it counts. But I'm gonna go with Lily Potter. I guess because of the spell that she did completely out of this chapter that gets talked about that ripped him from his body.
It's like a post. What is that? I don't know.
Posthumously.
There you go.
Posthumously. But so I'm gonna give it to Lily Potter because I can, I guess.
You know what? It's our show.
Yeah,
we can do whatever we want.
We write the rules.
All right. I have an honorable mention, and it's hurting me in my gut to say this, but I believe that a valuable member of this chapter, honestly, was Voldemort.
Ooh, she did a thing. She did a thing.
Okay, number one, he had way more dialogue than everybody else. He talked a lot.
Yeah.
That alone, you get points for screen time. That's one.
Yep.
But like, he ruled that room. That was his stage. That was his audience. He played them, little puppet master. Consider me. I confess myself disappointed. And you owe me 13 years of makeup. Like, I don't agree with him, but you gotta admit the guy's got style.
There was something that I wanted to mention. I didn't think about it today when I was taking notes, but it's something that I've always thought about when I've read this chapter, and I think it's really neat that McNair is there because we met him in book 3. He was the executioner that was supposed to kill Buckbeak, and this was just another like, oh, that guy seemed a little off when we met him. And
I mean, who wants to be an executioner?
Right. And so, yeah, I'll mention to him being there. How about that?
Excellent. Really good use of a prior character.
Right. And it fits. It makes sense.
It does. I'm just so happy I can hear the music. All right. That's going to wrap us up for this chapter. Join us on social media. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Not Named Podcast. You can also email us at notnamedpodcast@gmail.com. Go to our website, thepodcastthat.com, where you can find this show and all of the shows supported by our lovely The Podcast That family of podcasts. Go to the Support Us page. Go to TeePublic. Buy yourself some merch, particularly some wall hangings. I'm going to have some up here, hopefully soon. That's on my list. So get some with me. See how that goes.
Subscribe, like, rate, leave comments on iTunes, or if you're on YouTube, thank you for joining us in the live chat. We've been having a lot of fun interacting with folks, so please join us on YouTube. Hit that notification bell so that you, like our buddies here, get the notification of when we're going live, because we're usually not good at planning ahead. So,
fine.
Check it out.
Join us next time when we discuss chapter number 34.
Priori Incantatum. Stay imaginary.
Thanks.